Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Cameron Coet, and I'll be assuming the role of Carson Durst.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Grady Dunn, and I will be assuming the role of Dr. Casey Rogers.
All right, and is that everyone now? Okay, all right, thank you. At this time, I am going to swear in team members, the gallery, the scoring panelists, and all witnesses. I'll ask each person to please rise in an effort to maintain level of professionalism and to uphold the code of ethical conduct during this trial. All right, team members, please raise your right hand. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? Gallery members, including teacher and attorney coaches, family members, and friends, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round? And scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? All right, thank you all. All right, before we begin, are there any preliminary matters for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor, the plaintiff has just a few preliminary matters. We ask that when a certain company is not speaking at the time, if just for internet issues, we keep our cameras off. And then as well, we would ask that both sides have each attorney in a single room free of any other company or coaches.
Right, and what's the defense's position on those requests? Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so ordered. Right, any preliminary matters for the defense?
Your Honor, we don't have enough rooms to separate the lawyers into individual rooms. So we have an objection to their last preliminary matter.
All right, so given the nature of our the facilities available for the mock trial tournament, it will be allowable solely for purposes of being in the same room.
Thank you. And
Anything further?
The defense requests that the parties agree that all attorneys, witnesses, and the judge have access to all exhibits and can refer to them directly without having to screen share them.
I'm sorry, without having to
Screen share them.
all right. Any objection from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so ordered. Any other preliminary matters before we begin?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, for the plaintiff, you may proceed with your opening statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, and members of the jury. I am Ian Duran, and I'm here today on behalf of Dakota Weers. We stand here today because the gluttonous, profit-hungry greed of a company outweighed the lives of those who use their products, like Dakota Weers. Dakota Weers was a dynamic, talented young woman with a promising future as a professional pianist. That future has been stolen from her, stolen by a company whose insatiable lust for profit outweighed her life, Lush Fertilizer. A company who sits before you today and continues to steal from what Dakota has left. Lush Fertilizer took away Dakota's life. Dakota, at the young age of 19, was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a deadly form of cancer. Like so many other ambitious teenagers, she began working as soon as she was legally old enough. She worked at a small company called Haven Landscaping. It was an honest landscaping job, and while she made money and did what she loved, being outside. But amidst this bliss was an unknowing danger, because what she didn't realize was that every day she was being exposed to a carcinogenic chemical that was hidden by Lush Fertilizer. That chemical, called Drufo, caused the cancer that now ravages her body. Drufo is the reason we are all here today. You'll see through today's testimony that the packaging on Lush fertilizer products did not inform users like Dakota of the dangers that were hidden within it. The plaintiff's witnesses will clearly show you the dangers of Drufo and how the defendant buried those dangers beneath willfully negligent in-house studies. Now the defendant and her family are left to figure out how to fix her life. Dakota, due to her Lush fertilizer's willful negligence, lost a key part of her, the piano. Her illness is so severe that she cannot sit for extended lengths of time. She's not only lost the physical ability to play the piano, but also the emotional connection that drove this passion. Later today, you're going to hear from Dakota. You will see what she lost, and you'll see what she continues to lose. 3 witnesses will testify on Dakota's behalf today. You'll hear from Dakota Weirs herself, Carson Durst, and Dr. Casey Rogers. Dakota Weirs will show you firsthand what her life looks like as a result of the defendant's negligence. She will show you what Lush has taken from her. After that, Carson Durst will pull away the curtain from Lush's secretive business practices and show you how they continually ignored the warning signs that Drufo was not a revolutionary, environmentally friendly fertilizer that they claim it is, but instead a carrier of death and disease. Ms. Durst is going to explain to you what the inside of the company looked like, corruption and all. She'll show you what this company could have done and what this company did not do. By the end of today's case, what will be made apparent is the blood on Lush's hands. Dr. Casey Rogers, after that, will explain to you the in-depth research she has done on Drufo, including a recent study that revealed just how truly dangerous it is. But beyond that, Dr. Rogers will show you what Lush's team missed. She will show you how the hard-hitting facts of Drufo affect the human system. She will unveil what Lush tried to hide, the true science of Drufo. Once the plaintiff's witnesses are finished, you will hear from the witnesses of the defendant. Now, today, the defendant will try and continuously undermine the role they play in today's case. The facts of the case show you that Lush Fertilizer did not take the amount of time needed to accurately test their product. You'll see Dakota's life was worth a couple of weeks of research. The facts show that Lush Fertilizer could have removed any chances of carcinogens, and they didn't. Lush caused Dakota's cancer. By the end of today's case, this fact will be made evident. Lush knew there was a chance that their product could have caused cancer, and they did not act on it. Lush has flagrantly disregarded their responsibilities to their customers. At the end of today's trial, what you will see by preponderance of the evidence is that Lush Fertilizer caused Dakota's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and we ask that you reward Dakota with the proper damages. Thank you, Your Honor. That is all.
Thank you. For the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Josie Koster, and I, together with my colleagues, represent the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, who has been wrongly accused of purposely neglecting to warn customers of the dangers of its product. Dangers that do not exist. You see, this is a case of tactless manipulation. Manipulation by the plaintiff's attorneys of Ms. Weirs. Naturally, in a time of great uncertainty, Ms. Weirs is searching desperately for any explanations to make sense of her suffering. And others see this, particularly Lush's competitors. Taking a hold of Ms. Weirs' fears like the strings of a puppet, Lush's competitors and the attorneys of the plaintiff are manipulating her, disregarding the facts of the case and taking advantage of her pain to damage Lush's reputation and gain an economic advantage in a very competitive industry, a dynamic common in the world of agritech. Ms. Weirs' disease is real, that's certain, but the accusations against Lush are simply not. Lush spent years thoroughly researching, creating, and testing an environmentally friendly fertilizer that decreases the amount of harmful chemicals both the land and the user is exposed to. This fertilizer has dominated the market for a reason. Now being used worldwide, this is certainly a position that leaves its competitors envious. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the plaintiff will try to convince you that Lush Fertilizer was negligent in releasing its fertilizer in order to get a competitive edge in the industry. To do so, the plaintiff must clearly show that the Drufo and Lush Fertilizer not only generally causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma, but specifically caused Miss Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and that Lush did not take the proper precautions to know of and prevent these dangers. However, as the scientific evidence will prove, this is simply not true. Lush fertilizer underwent intense testing during its development, each time proving its safety. However, even if the plaintiff manages to prove Drufo did cause Miss Weir's condition, we will prove that the plaintiff did not take the proper precautions when handling any chemical. As you will hear from Miss Weir's herself, she continuously failed to wear protective gear while working with any products. As such, Miss Weir's was recklessly exposed to countless other chemicals and other fertilizers and products while working as a landscaper. Any one of these harsh chemicals likely could have resulted in her condition. To assure you that there's been no negligence on Lush's part, 3 witnesses will be called to the stand. First, you'll hear from Mr. Blake Doncourt. Mr. Doncourt is the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer, an avowed environmentalist. He will give insight on the company's thorough testing for Lush Fertilizer, which has determined time and time again that there has been no substantiated concern that the use of Drufo is dangerous in any way. Mr. Doncourt will also show you that Carson Durst, one of the plaintiff's lead witnesses, may have ulterior motives for what she has claimed. Next, you'll hear from Ms. Skylar Weirs, Dakota Weir's twin sister. Ms. Weirs is an investigative journalist who researched and wrote about the safety of Drufo before her sister's diagnosis. Ms. Weirs is very knowledgeable in the world of modern agritech and will tell you about the prominence of bought and paid for pseudoscientific hit jobs. Finally, you will hear from Dr. Devin Williams. Dr. Williams leads the toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer. She will tell you that Drufo is a revolutionary product that is far better for the planet and for people in general than the old generation of fertilizers. The plaintiff will likely try to confuse you by discussing a ban on Drufo in France, implying that Drufo is dangerous. However, as Dr. Williams will show you, this ban is not because of any link to cancer, but because of a blanket directive. It is a ban that could have easily been fought had Lush had the resources at the time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please do not let the opposition manipulate your ruling with their lies as they have Ms. Weirs. Do not believe the words coming from the puppeteers' mouths. Do not allow their emotional plea to override the scientific facts that have established the safety of Drufo and simultaneously destroy the best hope of an environmentally friendly future. While Ms. Weir's disease is unfortunate, the plaintiff will not be able to prove that it was caused by Drufo. At the conclusion of this trial, the defense will ask that you find in favor of our client and put an end to this mess that commercial competition has dragged innocence into. Thank you.
Thank you. The plaintiff may call your first witness.
We call Dakota Weirs to the stand. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Thank you for being here today. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the court?
Yes, I'm Dakota, W-E-I-R-S.
How old are you, Ms. Weirs?
I'm 20 years old.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I just graduated high school and, back in high school, I did a lot of things. I was the president of my student body's government. I was in NHS. I volunteered a lot at local homeless shelters, and I was just very active in my community, I personally would say. But I think the biggest part of my life was piano. I loved playing piano. I played piano for hours, and it was pretty much my life.
Now, can you tell me where you work right now, Ms. Weirs?
I am currently unemployed.
And why is that?
Well, due to my physical condition, it's impossible for me to work. You see, I got diagnosed with a disease that's a cancer called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it's taken such a toll on my body. I physically cannot do anything except for sit on the couch and watch TV.
Can you tell me about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes, it is a cancer, and it can destroy your body from the inside out, like many, many cancers. And I have to deal with swollen lymph nodes, bruises, fatigue, chills, and it's just a very painful and horrible way to live.
Can you tell me what it was like receiving this diagnosis?
it was really heartbreaking because especially at the time when I got that diagnosis, things were going so great in my life that, that when I heard the diagnosis, I realized that my life may end and I may have to come to an end with my great life.
Now let's move back to piano. Are you still able to play piano?
No, due to the intense amount of just damage this has taken on my body, I'm not even able to sit at the bench to play piano anymore.
And tell me about your piano playing. What was it like?
I started when I was.
Objection, Your Honor, relevancy.
Response?
I'm trying to prep a questioning for some of the damages that has come at a cost to Dakota Weir's sickness with her piano.
Any response?
Yes, Your Honor. I do not see how Ms. Weir's describing her experience with the piano has anything to do with why we are here today, which is Lush's role in her diagnosis.
Great. The objection is overruled. The witness may answer.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
Can you tell me about your experience with the piano?
Well, I started playing piano when I was really little. My grandfather is an accomplished piano player, so he would sit at the piano and he would play and I would listen to him. And eventually I started getting interested in it and he showed me little things. And when I was 7 years old, my grandfather died and that was horrible. I was really close with my grandfather. And so I was really close with my grandfather, and so when he died, that was horrible. But I continued to play piano. Eventually, my parents put me into classes, and I started to get good. And I loved playing piano because it was like I was playing with my grandfather again, even though he was dead. And I just would play, and eventually, I got good. People would come from all over the state to watch me play. I was winning competitions, and I got a scholarship to Juilliard. That is a once in a not even just a scholarship. I got a full ride scholarship to Juilliard. That is a once in a generation thing. That is incredible.
Can you tell me what your experience with trying to get into Juilliard was like?
I didn't have very much free time because I was doing so many things, but all my free time that I did have, I was studying music theory, and I even drew a little keyboard in my notebook. So when I went on road trips, I could practice my skills. When I got to an actual piano, I had the muscle memory for it. I spent all just my free time at the piano and playing and learning as much as I could.
Now I want to step back for a minute just to your personal life. What is life like outside of your piano? What is it like just day to day?
Well, day to day, before I got diagnosed, I used to work at a company, a landscaping company called Haven's Landscaping. I was a landscape technician, and I started when I was 14 years old, and I continued working there until I was 17 years old.
Now let's talk about Haven Landscaping. Why did you decide to work at Haven Landscaping?
Well, I worked at Haven's Landscaping because, it's nice to get that extra.
Objection, Your Honor, relevancy.
Response?
We are prepping a line of questioning that leads to her involvement with Lush Fertilizer and actually her connection. So I feel like it is very relevant.
Any response?
Her reasoning for being employed at Lush does not have any bearing on this trial.
Great. The objection is sustained. You may rephrase your question if you wish.
Okay, let's just move on to working at Haven Landscaping. Can you tell me what you did at Haven Landscaping?
Yeah, so essentially, when I was 14 years old, when I started, I was not able to use the machinery. And so my primary job there was disperse.
And while dispersing fertilizer, did you ever use Lush fertilizer products?
Yes, in fact, that was the primary fertilizer that we did.
Your Honor, let the record show that we are all looking at Exhibit 1 and for the witness to look at Exhibit 1.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, and the record will still reflect.
Ms. Weirs, what is this?
This is a copy of the Lush fertilizer bottle from when I worked at Haven's Landscaping.
And how do you know this?
I know this because this is what my boss sent me.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate copy of what your boss sent you?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Exhibit 1 into the evidence.
Any objections to admission?
No objections, Your Honor.
Great.
All right.
The exhibit is admitted.
All right, Dakota, what is a key ingredient found in Lush fertilizer products?
Well, the number one ingredient is Drufo.
And how often would you say you were in contact with Lush fertilizer?
Every single shift.
And during these shifts, were you wearing any protective gear?
I was not.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to turn to Exhibit 2 and let the record reflect that we are looking at Exhibit 2.
Record will so reflect.
Dakota, what is this?
This is a list I actually created. The top is an exact version of what the French bottle says, and the bottom is an English translation through Google Translate.
And how do you know this?
I know this because I wrote it myself.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of what you found?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Right, the exhibit is admitted.
How do you feel, Dakota, about these results?
It's kind of confusing why other countries wouldn't have Drufo in their products when it's the number one ingredient in the American version.
And in your opinion and what you've seen, why do you think that the other companies have not included Drufo?
Well, they might know how dangerous and how destructive Drufo is.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Response?
She did research this exhibit and she would have seen what this research concluded. So she's not speculating. This is what this exhibit states.
And any further response?
Yes, Your Honor. The witness phrased her answer as they saw or they believe. She did not state that it was in her opinion.
Right, the objection is sustained as you may rephrase the question. The witness could apply to her personal knowledge.
Let's just move on. How do you feel that other countries don't use Drufo?
It's kind of confusing, but also, well, it's confusing that America would use Drufo, but other countries wouldn't. But it's very weird that America wouldn't care about their people as much as other places do. And they obviously would care about it if they notice a problem and they decided to ban the product.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation again.
The witness is just merely observing at this point. She's not making any claims. She's just observing what she may see as a result of this evidence.
Right, so the objection is overruled in part and sustained in part. The question was properly phrased. The witness must answer based on her own personal knowledge, not on any speculation from what anyone else did or why.
Well, in my personal opinion, I believe that they did not include Drufo as part of their product because of how dangerous it is.
How does that make you feel?
That makes me feel kind of disappointed that America might include a dangerous product in theirs, but other countries would be willing to not allow a product so dangerous.
Okay, now let's move back to Skylar. Let's talk about her. Who is Skylar Weirs to you?
Skylar Weirs is my twin sister.
And what does she do?
Well, she has two jobs. She works as a writer for a magazine, and she also works a part-time job at Applebee's.
And do you believe that Skylar is talented in her field of work?
Oh yeah, she's an absolutely talented writer.
But do you believe in your own opinion that she would be here if not on behalf of you?
No, I think there's no way that Skylar would be here if I was not here. I think she's here to spite me.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. That is all.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. My name is Josie Coster, and I will be conducting your cross-examination today.
Good afternoon.
Let's begin by discussing your sister, Skylar Weirs. Isn't it true that your relationship with your sister is strained due to financial stress?
Yeah, we aren't necessarily that close.
And this in large part is because of your medical bills?
I wouldn't say it's in large part because of my medical bills. I would say that doesn't really have that much to do with it.
But you stated in your testimony that your relationship is strained due to financial stress because of your medical bills, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. I don't see how their relationship has much to do with the case at hand right now.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm establishing the relationship between two witnesses in order to, this question goes at the validity of one of the witnesses.
So the objection is overruled. It does go to motive.
Let me restate the question. So this strain in your relationship is in large part due to your medical bills, correct?
Well, that is a part of it, but it's not the biggest part.
But if you win this case, you will receive money, correct?
I will receive money, yes, as will the other side. Well, not the other side, but
Meaning that at least some of your financial stress will be alleviated due to this money?
I personally don't have that much financial stress myself. My father is helping me a lot with my finances.
So then, since your father is helping you, wouldn't this in turn lift stress off of your family as a whole?
It would,
This money this money that you're receiving?
It would, yes.
And yet your sister is still testifying against you?
My sister is testifying against me.
Let's move on now to your handling of Lush fertilizer. Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to what has previously been marked as Exhibit 1, which has already been entered as evidence. Let the record reflect, we're all looking at our own copy of Exhibit 1.
The record will so reflect.
Could you please read the user safety recommendations for me as they are written on the label?
Yes, it says, as with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator or N95 mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning/maintaining personal protective equipment. Users should wash their hands before and after use of this product.
Thank you. You were instructed by your boss to follow these, correct?
Yes, my boss did say that.
And yet you chose not to?
No, they didn't really seem to be mandatory or necessary to really wear them.
Instead of the required long sleeves, pants, and gloves from your boss when working with fertilizers, you wore shorts and t-shirts, correct?
Yes, but here's the thing. It says the caution causes eye irritation. So what you can assume from this is that if you don't follow the recommendations, then you will have eye irritation. That's not even close to what this is. This is cancer.
I'm sorry, but at this time, I'm currently asking about your boss's instructions and you following your boss's instructions. Did you follow your boss's instructions to wear the required long sleeves, pants, and gloves?
I did not.
And you also did not follow your boss's instructions to cover your face when working with chemicals, correct?
I did not.
Let's now discuss other possible origins of your condition. Is it correct that you used several other fertilizers and lawn chemicals during your time at Haven Landscaping?
I did use a couple other, yes.
Did any of these other fertilizers and chemicals you used at Haven have some sort of warning on the packaging?
All of them do, yes.
Meaning that at least some of these other fertilizers and chemicals were known to cause various dangers.
That is true.
Yet your failure to follow protocol with protective covering was not limited to just while you were using Lush fertilizer?
No, but I primarily used Lush fertilizer.
So you failed to wear protective covering while using these other chemicals and fertilizers as well, too, right?
I did.
So it's safe to say that every now and then you would ignore some of these other warnings?
I did.
Is there mention anywhere in your testimony that you collected the labels and warnings of any product you had used while on the job other than Lush fertilizer?
No, I did not ask my old boss for any of the older labels from the bottles.
And so did you search any of these many other chemicals that you used for a link to non-Hodgkin lymphoma as insurance that it couldn't be one of them?
No, I didn't. What I specifically saw, though, from when I first discovered about the link between Drufo and cancer is specifically Drufo, not any other chemical.
So you didn't ask about any other chemical, correct?
I did not.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, any redirect?
Yes, a brief redirect, Your Honor.
Briefly.
Dakota,
Yes.
Dakota, are there any warning labels on this product?
There are warning labels.
And what do they say?
It says caution causes eye irritation. Avoid contact with eyes of clothing.
Do you believe that this is a correct installation of what may have been to come if you didn't use these safety recommendations?
No, absolutely not. This, from what the bottle looks like it says if you don't follow the recommendations, you are going to have eye irritation. That's your eye hurting is a lot different than this. This is cancer. This is life-threatening. I might not live because of this. And it says just causes eye irritation.
And in your research, did you find any other fertilizer could have any links to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, the one chemical I did see have links to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is Drufo.
That is all, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Weirs.
All right, any recross based on that limited redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you look for any other links to non-Hodgkin lymphoma in any of your other products?
I did not actively look, but I know that there isn't very much evidence, or at least very much as strong evidence as there is with Drufo.
And so you didn't look, correct?
I did not actively look, no.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, you may call your next witness.
Hi, Your Honor. May I please call Carson Durst to the stand?
Okay.
Hello, Ms. Durst. Could you please state your first name and spell your last name for the record?
Hello, Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
And where do you currently work?
I currently work at Terra's Greenery.
Where did you work before?
I worked at Lush Fertilizers.
And where did you go to college?
I went to college at ASU, Arizona State University,
What did you study?
chemical engineering.
Do you have any bachelors?
I do have a bachelor's.
And where did you find work after college?
After college, I got an internship at Lush Fertilizers.
Did you ever get promoted?
I did get promoted.
What was your first major assignment at Lush?
So my first major assignment at Lush was doing research on Drufo. I did, while intern doing this research, found an article that referenced 3 other articles about how Drufo is carcinogenic in rats.
Your Honor, could I please direct the witness to Exhibit 3?
You may.
What is this?
This is the article I found on the carcinogenic study of Drufo in rats.
Is it a fair and accurate copy?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I would like to submit Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I object on the grounds of hearsay, as this was not done in the EU and not in America by Carson Durst herself.
Okay, any response?
Well, she studied her assignment was to study other studies of the chemical, and the chemical does not change in countries.
Right, the objection is overruled. The witness may answer, or the exhibit is admitted.
So what does it say about Drufo in this study?
In this study, the results show that Drufo is carcinogenic in rats, and it also references multiple other studies that prove the same thing.
Who was your supervisor on this research?
Jerry Langley.
And what was his response after learning about the risks?
When I brought this study to Jerry's attention, Jerry shut me down. Jerry said that they take the study into mind, and when a scientist along with me showed that they had concerns as well, it was kind of brushed under the rug. Unfortunately, I fought for this to be listened, like for people to listen and hear about it and read it, because it not only is just one study, it references 3 other studies, which shows it's been replicated and repeated. And it was just really disappointing that Jerry did not take this into as serious account as they should have.
Did you ever receive a report on the Drufo studies?
We got a brief overview in an email about the Drufo studies, but it wasn't a good, accurate representation of what really is happening, what Drufo really is.
Did it say anything in regards to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No.
Did it say anything in regards to baking?
They said if you baked it, it would help reduce this carcinogenic effect of Drufo, yes.
Do you think baking it would have been worth it?
Absolutely. I mean,
Your
for
Honor,
only a few.
Ms. Durst is not an expert in what they should have done.
Response?
She's worked for the company for years, and I'm merely asking for her opinion on if they should have baked the product or not, because it was a very serious thing that was involved with a lot of her research.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Durst does not have the proper expert opinion to make an opinion on this case based on scientific facts.
She has a bachelor's.
Go ahead.
Sorry, she has a bachelor's, so I think she is qualified to make an opinion about this.
All right. Well, the objection is sustained. You may rephrase your question.
I'll just move on to it. So as someone hands-on with the studies, what was your opinion on the studies from Lush?
I believe that Lush's studies were short, they were not accurate, and they should have taken into account more factors that they did not.
What happened following you speaking up about the risks?
So unfortunately, after I spoke up about the risks, I was basically, I was very much put kind of in a corner. I was given bad assignments. I was disregarded for my, my specialty in research as, I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering. So I know how chemical bonds work in that matter. And I was given these basic tasks that didn't have anything to do with what I know. And when I kept bringing it up to management and even to Mr. Doncourt, I was pushed even farther back. It was really disappointing.
Do you think you were being targeted?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I spoke up and because I was willing to, and I fought for this situation to not happen in the first place, and I was not heard.
What did Mr. Doncourt do in response to the target?
He said that I'm lucky to have a job, and basically said that he trusts his people doing his lab work, but I'm literally doing the research to justify this lab work. And I found a study that references 3 other studies. You'd think that he'd look more into it, but he was more concerned about the money, about not baking Drufo, and a bunch of other factors that were just selfish.
So, Ms. Durst, do you think that the company is trying to keep its product's risks a secret?
I do. They knew about the study. They knew about it, and they chose to not do anything about it.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Durst. My name is Zach Hines, and I will be conducting your cross today. Ms. Durst, I'd like to direct your attention to your relationship with the Doncourt family. When did you meet Charles Doncourt?
Over 20 years ago.
And would you say you were friends?
I would say we were friends. Yes.
Best friends?
Yes.
And did any other applicants for Lush jobs have the same friendship as you did?
I am not aware of the other applicants. That's beyond what I know.
Did you have a specific friendship with them that helped you to get the job at Lush Fertilizer?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, that was not very clear. I think my Wi-Fi is going in and out.
Did Mr. Doncourt say that he would help you find a job by pulling strings?
He did offer to help me with the internship, yes, and I'm really grateful for that.
So then, did he quote say that he would help you by pulling strings to help you get a job there?
Objection asked and answered.
Response?
Your Honor, the witness did not specifically say that the Doncourt helped them by specifically saying pulling the strings.
Great. The objection is overruled.
May I repeat my question?
Yes,
So then, Ms. Durst, did the Doncourt family say, quote, that they would help you pull the strings to get the job?
I think he absolutely helped me get the job, yes, but I also think it's because of my qualifications that I got the job. I did have to go through an interview process in order to get the job. It wasn't just his recommendation.
Can you please respond with a yes or no question? In your statement, did you say that he helped you by, quote, pulling strings for you?
I think he did put a good word in for me.
And so then this had no effect on you getting the job?
I think it did help me get the job, yes.
So then you had an advantage in getting this because of your friendship with him and because he helped you pull strings to get the job?
Not necessarily. I think that I definitely was deserving of this job. I mean, I was second in my class, so I definitely think I deserved it.
That's not my question, Ms. Durst. Did you have an advantage because he said he would help you pull strings to get the job?
He definitely helped, yes.
Once more, did you have an advantage?
He definitely helped, yes.
I'd like to direct your attention now to your work at Lush Fertilizer. Were there complaints about your work at Lush Fertilizer?
There was only complaints after I spoke up about the issue with Drufo.
And how did this affect your work status?
I was pushed down in my work status. I was belittled by my fellow people who I worked with.
And how did this make you feel?
You know, honestly, it didn't make me feel down, but I fought for my belief and I fought for my decision to help put this research paper at the top of the pile to tell them about the risks of Drufo, and nobody listened. They wanted to keep their job. They had the interest of themselves and money in mind, not in the mind of like Drufo. They didn't care about the people who were using Drufo. They cared about themselves.
And did you want your old job back instead of what you got downsized to once you spoke out against them?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Yes or no, you wanted your job back after they had, as you said, belittled you, correct?
Like my research job?
Yes.
That would have been nice to be in research. Yes, I did not appreciate, but I still did research and fought for it, regardless of my job description.
So then after this, you turned to Mr. Doncourt to help you pull strings, so he could pull strings again for you to get your job back, correct?
No, I actually approached him about my issues with Drufo and all that. And yes, I was concerned about the management pulling the stuff with me, but that doesn't have to do with Mr. Doncourt. He didn't really pull any strings for me.
So then you did not go ask him, you did not go talk to him to get your old job back?
Objection asked and answered.
The response?
Your Honor, the witness did not respond with a simple yes or no. All this needs is a yes or no question.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
She actually broke it down about how she did go to Mr. Doncourt, but didn't talk to him about pulling strings. She talked to him about her troubles with Drufo and how it has problems and risks.
The objection is sustained. You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. How did you feel going into the meeting with Mr. Doncourt?
I felt a little bit frustrated. I felt like I was not heard.
So you were influenced by emotions going into the meeting?
No, I think I was influenced by the best motive so people don't get cancer.
And yet you just said that you were frustrated as you.
Of course I'd be frustrated. People will get cancer. Are you kidding me?
And
if it's carcinogenic, if anyone would die, don't you want to save a life? Don't you care about Dakota's life?
Your Honor, could you please just direct the witness to answer with a yes or no question?
Right, I'm not gonna direct the witness to answer just with a yes or no question. She may answer the question. She may not ask counsel questions.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Were you in, so then you were frustrated going into the meeting, yes?
As I should be.
And so then you were influenced by emotions going into the meeting, yes?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
What went down during this meeting had to do with how Ms. Durst was feeling at the time, and her frustration would lead to a certain outcome.
Your Honor, may I respond?
May.
I don't think that her emotions while being unfairly treated has anything to do with Drufo.
Okay, the objection is overruled. The witness may answer.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, so you were influenced by emotions going into the meeting.
Of course I was.
And did you get the answer you wanted from Mr. Doncourt?
I did not get my case relooked at now.
And how did you react?
You know, I actually kept pushing for them to read the study, see the references, see the facts, see the evidence, and I was pushed back even more.
And did
I
you
mean,
change?
sometimes once you speak up.
And did you change companies?
I did change companies, yes.
So then what you're saying is that you're only loyal to a company when it benefits you?
I never said that. My loyalty is a company who's environmentally friendly and who cares about their people using the products.
So then it wasn't the job you had previously with the Doncourts was not benefiting you at all.
I was there to help, you know, help Drufo and help the company be better and do better, and be more environmentally friendly. And when I came to the company, I expected them to do that and to uphold this motto of theirs. But, you know,
Did you have a specific confidentiality with Lush Fertilizer?
I did. But I didn't
And-
recall what I signed at the time when I signed it.
But there was still a confidentiality, correct?
There was.
And yet right now you're testifying against Lush Fertilizer with trade secrets from Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
So then you broke your confidentiality agreement, correct?
This was already addressed in a previous trial.
So then you did, correct?
I did not follow
Thank
the.
you. Finally, I'd like to direct your attention to the study that was done on Drufo specifically. So just to clarify, do you currently work for Lush Fertilizer?
I do not.
And what was your job when you were at Lush Fertilizer?
I worked in research and development as a product engineer.
And were you a scientist?
Yes, I am a scientist. I got my bachelor's in chemical engineering.
Were you a
And I've done.
scientist?
Sorry, go ahead.
Were you a scientist when in this specific experiment?
Research is part of the scientific methodology. So yes, I was a scientist.
Let me rephrase the question. Did you do any of the experiments for this case?
I did not. I was not in the labs where they were doing the.
And is there any way that you could specifically say that this data is not flawed?
That there were definitely outliers within the data that they covered up to make the company look better. From the statistics that we had access to, I definitely know that.
So then the data was flawed from your own scientists?
Yes.
So then as the head of them, isn't that your fault?
I'm not the head of anything.
As the head of the research facility and doing those and being charged of the scientists, was that your fault then?
I was a product engineer at Lush Fertilizers.
Yes, and you were in charge of the studying what they did, correct?
I was not in charge of it. My manager, Jerry Langley, was. Sorry.
So then when you were,
I did work with them, yes.
and yet, so you're saying that their data is wrong?
I do not. I believe that there were a lot of outliers that should not have been excluded and a lot of research proving elsewise.
And did you do the data yourself?
I did not do the data myself, but it was reported to all of us.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Great. Any redirect based on that cross-examination?
Just a short one. So, Ms. Durst, you earned your job through your good education and hard work, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you studied Drufo in living organisms, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, the study that we actually have been looking at this entire case actually points to humans and how it's metabolized in the gastric tract in humans.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Right. And any recross based on those two questions?
Yes, real quick, Your Honor.
Briefly.
Ms. Durst, did you work hard to get your job?
Absolutely.
But did you also have the backing of the Doncourt family in getting your job?
Objection asked and answered.
The witness has asked and answered. The witness has answered.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. No further questions.
All right. Let me call your next witness.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I now call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand. Good morning, doctor. Good afternoon, doctor. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers, and Rogers is spelled Rogers.
Where do you work?
So I work as a professor of horticulture and entomology at UC Berkeley, as well as being a research analyst and conducting my own research.
Where did you attend school?
I attended school at UC Berkeley, and at UC Berkeley, I received my PhD in agriculture and entomology, as well as received an undergraduate degree from Colorado State University in a Bachelor of Science of Agriculture and Chemistry.
Do you have any publications or research?
I do have publications and research.
Is there anywhere we can see your previous education, employment, and publication history?
Could you repeat that question?
Is there anywhere we could see your previous employment and education history?
Yes, if you refer to Exhibit 6.
Your Honor, may I direct the witness to Exhibit 6?
May.
Let the record reflect that we are now all looking at Exhibit 6.
The record will so reflect.
Doctor, do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It is my resume.
How do you know?
I wrote it.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of your resume?
Yeah, I did all of these positions.
Does this accurately pertain to everything you've said so far?
Correct, it does.
Your Honor, I would like to move to enter Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
Great. The exhibit is admitted.
You mentioned earlier you have publications. Is there anywhere we can see those publications?
Yeah, those publications are listed in Exhibit 7.
Your Honor, may I direct the witness to Exhibit 7?
You may.
Let the record reflect that we are now all looking at Exhibit 7.
The record will so reflect.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's my list of publications, research publications, and I know because I wrote it, many of these publications are in place in Drufo, so I'd consider myself quite an expert in Drufo. For example, I did a study in 2019 that says the survey reveals frequency and multiple resistance to Drufo. I looked at Drufo-resistant weeds, as well as evidence of human exposure to Drufo, which is a review.
Is this a
As
fair
well
and
as, sorry, as well as Drufo toxicity and carcinogenicity.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of all of your publications?
Yes, I'm positive it is.
Your Honor, I would like to move to enter Exhibit 7 into evidence.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
The exhibit is admitted.
What type of science, besides the ones you've already mentioned, what type of scientific or technical studies have you conducted?
So recently I conducted a study with 3 different groups, specifically looking at Drufo and its carcinogenic properties in humans. This concerned a control group, a group of partial exposure, and a group with consistent exposure to the chemical Drufo. Control group showed lower chances of developing cancer when in contact with Drufo. The people partially in contact with Drufo were 5 times more likely to develop cancer, and those consistently exposed to Drufo were 10 times more likely to develop cancer, according to my study.
Do you believe that your testimony will be helpful in assisting the judge or jury understand the facts of this case?
It's not a belief, it's a certainty.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to tender this witness as an expert in the field of horticulture and entomology.
For the defense? Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a short vote here.
You may.
You are currently employed as a professor in agriculture and entomology, correct?
Correct.
And this is your primary focus at the time?
I mean, research is very important to me as an individual as well as being a professor.
But this is your primary focus?
I don't know, primary is an appropriate word to use. I have lots of focuses in my life, including research with Drufo.
However, you have a bachelor's in chemistry, agriculture, and entomology, correct?
Correct.
But your focus is still on agriculture and entomology?
I mean, that's what my degree is in.
Okay. In fact, you'd agree that you only have an interest in toxicology?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
In fact,
Your Honor, objection, relevance. How does this have to do with him being tendered as an expert in the field of horticulture, entomology, and chemistry?
Your response? Yes.
As the case pertains to Drufo's effects on the body, it is relevant to talk about toxicology and whether he has any background in this act.
May I respond?
Yes.
We have you guys have another witness that is an expert in toxicology. This witness is not an expert in toxicology and has enough experience in chemistry, horticulture, and entomology in order to study Drufo. It's not just toxicology that is allowed to study Drufo.
Right. The objection is sustained as to the line of questioning for the voir dire as to whether or not this witness should be tendered as an expert.
Okay. Do any of your articles pertain to anything other than Drufo?
Yes, I have other publications that are outside of Drufo.
Do any of your recent articles pertain to anything outside of Drufo?
Define recent. Relative to what? The recent to me, as far as research in the field, yeah, they're recent. As far as other publications, I mean, they're recent in my career. So I mean, too.
Thank you. Your Honor, the defense objects to Dr. Casey Rogers being admitted as an expert in horticulture and entomology.
Right. Any response?
Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to point out that not only is this witness being tendered as an expert in the field of entomology, horticulture, but also chemistry, and there should be no objection because they are educated in this, and according to Rule 702, one of those 5 things the expert must meet is knowledge or education, and this witness has definitely proved that.
Right. The objection is overruled. The witness may testify as an expert in those areas of expertise for which she has been tendered.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, to move back to what we were talking about, let's expand on your publications. What is the general focus of your articles?
My general focus on my articles surround Drufo and is carcinogenic.
What if all of your findings that you've found over the years, what have they been used for?
They have been used to help look at the specific safety the chemical Drufo has, and that my studies have led to the conclusion that Drufo is not in fact a safe chemical and carcinogenic to humans.
Have your other findings ever been used to create recommendations on precautions that should be taken by people who use chemicals?
Yes, they have been, and this case is a great example of this. I would also like to mention that what inspired me to look into DRUFO specifically is the study concerning rats and the conclusion of that study saying that it posed risk to prenatal and or fetal life in humans. So that inspired me to look at it specifically being carcinogenic in humans.
What did you do in response to everything you were seeing?
Well, I conducted the study and I found that my proved that in fact carcinogenic.
Who is involved in your study?
So like I said before, I had 3 groups: a control group, partial exposure, and complete exposure to the chemical DRUFO. And that did over several years from those 3 different.
Why was it important that you compared these groups?
It's important for me to compare these groups because I wanted to see whether or not there was a strong correlation in between no exposure to high exposure and to partial exposure. And I would say that 5 times as likely with partial exposure and 10 times as likely with consistent exposure is a pretty great discrepancy.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. You gained an interest in DRUFO because you believed it was rushed, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat that question? Your microphone's a little fuzzy.
Sorry. You gained an interest in DRUFO because you believed it was rushed, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you believe there weren't sufficient studies done on it?
I believe that there needed to be more studies to look into it being carcinogenic in humans, which I had conducted since it had been already proven as carcinogenic.
The studies are conducting your own experiments on DRUFO, correct?
Yeah, I conducted my own experiments on DRUFO.
Did you ever do an analysis of the study tested by less fertilizer?
Not personally, but I did look at the study concerning rats. And as I mentioned previously, the study concluded that it posed risk to humans.
I'm sorry, my question did not call for an explanation.
I believe an explanation is necessary in this case. If we're talking science, I think you would want to know the evidence behind that science as an attorney.
You just assumed the study conducted by less rushed, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it was done in 2 months. Any scientific study takes years to complete.
But you did not review these studies. You just assumed they were rushed.
As a scientist, I know that because I conducted studies that lasted years.
Was the study on DRUFO ever peer reviewed?
It was not.
Okay. Was your study ever replicated?
I would like to see it replicated someday, but it has not been replicated.
However, having your study peer reviewed would have solidified its validity, correct?
I believe it would, and I am not opposed to it being peer reviewed.
Okay. And having the study replicated could remove bias and random chance.
I mean, 5 to 10 times more likely. That's a large enough discrepancy to, I believe that I could assert that it wasn't a one-time chance. Like 10 times is pretty big, but I mean, I'm not, as a scientist, like I said, I am not opposed to peer review, and I know that it takes more than 2 months to conduct an accurate study.
Okay, thank you. Please answer with yes or no.
And again, doesn't require a yes or no question in that instance.
I did not need an explanation. I did not ask you a question.
Anything with science requires an explanation. As an attorney,
okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any, is that direct? Sorry, I just got lost there.
Yeah, any redirect.
Okay, any redirect, sorry.
Yes, Your Honor, a brief one.
You may.
Doctor, do you believe that peer review is a necessary part of the scientific review?
I don't believe it's necessary because I believe I've shown I am accredited in my field with several publications, as well as inspiration from peer-reviewed studies, such as the rat study. Although I don't discredit peer review, it's not necessary.
Now, do you believe that you as a scientist are credible enough to be able to say, sorry, let me rephrase my question. Do you believe that as a scientist, you are credible enough to be able to do your own studies?
It's not a belief, it's a certainty.
No further questions. Thank you.
Right. And any recross based on that brief redirect?
No recross, Your Honor.
All right. The witness is excused. All right. That concludes the witnesses for the plaintiff. All right. The defense may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Mr. Blake Doncourt to the stand. Good morning, Mr. Doncourt. Please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
I'm going to begin with the direct examination now. Are you ready?
Yes.
Could you please begin by telling me a little bit about yourself?
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer.
And what has been your experience with Lush Fertilizer?
Since 2000, I have worked day and night to grow the company from an unknown producer of fertilizer to one of the world's largest suppliers of yard and commercial fertilizers. Through years of research and development, we have made our flagship product used by businesses, governments, and private use to produce vibrant landscaping.
And why are you here today?
I'm here today to address the claims that are false about my company, Lush, brought by Dakota Wires. Now, Dakota's disease is real, and I hear non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a terrible disease, but it was not caused by me or Lush through our negligence.
I'd like to just direct your attention now to the claims against you and your company. Are you aware of what these claims are?
Yes, Lush and I are being falsely accused of ignoring a known carcinogenic, Drufo, in our fertilizer.
And what testing or research of the product was completed before putting it on the market?
We have extensive research and testing to determine any potential risk of using this product.
Could you please tell us a little bit about what you found in this research?
Our toxicology research and development team found nothing in the product, nor did the EPA, to require a warning because of the insignificant levels of toxicity in our fertilizer. Because we found no risk to a person using our fertilizer, there was no need under state or federal laws to put a warning on our package.
And what did you know about any concerns with Drufo itself?
I was never aware of any sustained concerns or given any reason to be concerned that the use of Drufo was dangerous. I had never seen any scientific evidence, or at least no valid scientific evidence, showing a reasonable probability that Drufo is carcinogenic.
I'd like to direct your attention now to the claims brought against you by Carson Durst. What, if anything, do you know about these claims?
Carson is accusing both me and Lush of financial motivation to put a dangerous product in the public's hands.
And what is your relationship to Ms. Durst?
Carson had worked for Lush until she was fired and started working for our biggest competitor, Terria Greenery.
What was Ms. Durst's job at Lush?
She was part of Lush's research and development team, meaning it was her job to look for any dangers or risks so that we could follow up on them.
Could you tell the court a little bit about any such dangers or risks that she brought to your attention while working at the job?
She brought up no dangers to my attention while working at Lush. But when she started working for Terria Greenery, she brought up a claim that we had never heard of, even though she had countless opportunities to bring it up while she worked at Lush.
And what did Lush's other researchers find in their testing?
They've all reached the opposite conclusion of what Carson's trying to claim.
So then what do you think about these claims?
I think it's all about money. I know Carson got hired by our biggest competitor, Terria Greenery, and is now getting paid exclusively for a research.
Was there an objection?
Sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute before. I was trying to say this before, but it was a lack of personal knowledge.
So speculation?
To the question right before this about.
Okay, and what's your response?
And what did Lush's other researchers find in their testing? Was it that question?
I know it was the right before this. It just wasn't letting me unmute to say it.
Okay. In that case, I think it was that question. My response is that he is the head of the company, and so he knows what his own researchers found in their testing, as they have to report it back to him.
Right, and any further response?
Sorry, I just thought it was a different question than that.
Okay. Right. Well, the objection is overruled.
Yes, Your Honor. So then what do you think about these claims?
I think it's all about money. Carson Durst is getting hired by our biggest competitor, Carrier Greenery, and is now getting paid exclusively for a research position, much more than what I could have paid her. And now I hear Terra is about to release a similar product to Lush, which they claim is safer and carcinogenic free. In my opinion, this would be the perfect time to knock off a competitor through harmful claims.
I'd like to bring your attention now to the claims regarding your financial
Objection on evidence.
situation.
Sorry.
Objection, assuming facts on evidence.
Okay. And your
I'll move
response?
on, Your Honor. I'll move on, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to bring your attention now to the claims regarding your financial situation. What do you know, if anything, about these claims?
I know that Dakota and her lawyers are claiming that I have financial motivation to put a dangerous product in the public's hands.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to Exhibit 8. Let the record reflect we're all looking at a copy of Exhibit 8.
The record will still reflect.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, it's an amortization table I made in 2004.
And what does it show?
It shows that the expected cost of not baking the fertilizer. We could increase our profits by 6% the first year and another 2% every year thereafter if Lush does not bake their fertilizer.
Do you acknowledge that this table is genuine?
Yes.
2004 was quite a while ago. Why is this table still relevant today?
This table was made when Lush made the decision not to bake their fertilizer. Since continuous testing still showed no link to cancer, we still do not bake our fertilizer. Therefore, the elements of this table are relevant because we gain a profit from not baking our fertilizer.
Your Honor, I believe I have laid sufficient ground and move that Exhibit 8 be entered as evidence.
Any objection?
No objections.
The exhibit is admitted.
Why did you decide not to bake your fertilizer?
It's just too expensive a process for the little risk it alleviates. Again, we found no valid research that shows Drufo is potentially harmful, so it was simply overkill to bake it.
And why did you not publish your financial findings?
It's not good business to. No business would. This type of proprietary information is never shared with the public, as it would give our competitors an advantage.
So it seems like you made a lot of profits from not baking. Where does this money go?
Well, like every company, we have investors that we need to keep happy. Beyond that, we make a significant contribution to environmental charities.
And what are these contributions to environmental charities?
Well, I've directed 10% of our annual profits to charities, which work to decrease the world's global nitrogen footprint. It's also been instrumental in creating state and national legislation, seeking to further educate people on environmental issues. We've also started our own charity focused on cleaning up the world's most polluted areas of the ocean.
So then what do you think about these claims that through your intentional negligence, you would cause harm to other people?
That's an absurd accusation. I am an avowed environmentalist. Had there been any significant, verifiable risk that Druva could have been carcinogenic, I would never allow our company to put it on the market.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Doncourt. You are the leader of your company, correct?
If you mean leader as CEO, yes.
You oversee employees?
I do oversee employees, yes.
Oversee studies?
Not personally, no.
You choose who to hire?
I do choose who I hire, yes.
And what specific jobs do you have?
Yes.
Do you have any degree in the scientific field of chemical engineering?
No, I do not.
Maybe
Objection,
biology?
Your Honor. Relevancy?
Response?
Well, I was merely pointing it out how he doesn't have any scientific qualifications, but chooses experts to hire and then makes judgments about said experts.
And how is that relevant?
It's getting rid of his credibility.
Right, any other response?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Doncourt is the CEO of the company. He does not need any scientific degrees as he does not work with any scientific experiments.
Great, the objection is overruled. The witness may answer.
May you repeat the question?
Oh, I just said maybe biology.
No, I have no degree in biology.
And does your company run tests on its products?
Yes, my research and development team runs tests.
Did you run tests on Drufo?
Of course we did.
And how long were these tests physically?
Do you mean how long ago or how long conclusively?
How long conclusively were they?
I believe we reached our conclusion over 20 years ago.
I mean, how long did the test run for?
That's not a question for me. That would be a question for my research and development team.
So you don't know how long your tests under your company were?
No, as you said, I have no scientific background, and so it would be improper for me to be in charge of the testing.
Just overseeing it? The timeline?
I only oversee. Can you restate?
Just of the timeline and money that goes into running tests? You did not oversee any of that?
I made sure that the testing was complete before I put the product in the public's hands.
Were you aware of Carson Durst's findings on Drufo's concerns?
He did not bring up any claims while he worked at Lush, nor any of these findings until he started working with Terrier Greenery.
Do you know any actual specific details about the tests run under your company?
Like I said, I am not a scientist, nor do I have the scientific background, so it's not my knowledge to know how it's done.
So you don't know anything about the actual tests under your company purely because of that?
That would be a question for my research and development team. As you pointed out, I have no scientific degree.
Do you publish any studies around these tests?
By you, do you refer to me or Lush?
Lush.
I don't believe our studies were ever published, but we did in-house studies.
Why were these studies never published?
Why we need to? They're used to determine if our product was dangerous before we put it on the market. We were not seeing if the scientific community agreed with us.
Would people not want to see if the product was safe?
They can see it's safe by the EPA.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Response?
I was just pointing out how usually in a lot of scientific research, it is published and peer-reviewed, and to not publish any studies about a product that has a lot of raising concerns is quite strange.
Right, the objection is sustained.
Can you repeat the question?
The objection is sustained. She must move on.
My apologies.
Why did you hire a whole new wave of employees for the second test?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear you.
Why did you hire a whole new wave of employees for the second test?
Objection, Your Honor, out of scope of the direct.
The response?
It's purely just pointing out how in his tests and research, it was just got rid of all of the more experienced people for no reason.
Right, the objection is sustained. It is beyond the scope of the previous examination.
Do you bake your products?
No, I do not.
And as you said before, you think it would be overkill to make a product 100% not carcinogenic?
No, what I stated before.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. I asked this in my direct examination.
Any response?
Oh, you can re-ask a question when it's a direct because it's a different set of questions.
The objection is overruled. You may continue.
And you said that 10% of your profits go to charities, correct?
Yes, 10% of our annual profits go to charities.
Your Honor, may I direct the witness back to Exhibit 8?
You may.
Mr. Doncourt, could you please read the estimate net profit change from 2006 to 2014?
From 2006?
Yes, to 2014. That's one number.
I believe the net profit change was 1.6 million, 1.675 million.
The estimate net profit change.
Over the years, it was 7%. It was 2% in 2006, and 2% every year thereafter.
Yeah. So if you donate 10% of your profits each year to charity, why not 2% to make your product 100% safe?
I'm confused by your question.
You donate 10% of your profits to charities, but it would only take 2% of that to make your products 100% safe. Why not make your products 100% safe?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Any response?
Well, I was just restating the question because he didn't understand. And I was merely pointing out that it was a small fraction of what goes to charities than what it actually takes to make his product safe.
Objection is overruled. You may answer.
Can you restate the question?
So you donate 10% of your profits each year to charities, but each year it would only take 2% of that to make your products 100% safe. Why not make them 100% safe?
Well, since we've seen no valid scientific evidence that our products are dangerous, they are 100% safe in the eyes of Lush and the EPA. So there's no need to bake it to remove the very slight, if any, risk that was not found by the EPA or Lush.
You have a son, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevancy.
It's leading up to the next question, which is relevant to the case.
The objection is sustained.
So, would you rather have your son use a product that is completely risk-free or one that is possibly carcinogenic?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation and relevancy.
I'm pointing out that if he wanted his son to use a slightly carcinogenic or one that's actually safe.
The objection is overruled. He may testify as to his own experience and knowledge. Can you answer?
Question.
Would you rather have your own son use a product that is completely risk-free or one that is possibly carcinogenic?
Drufo, our product Lush is risk-free as proven by Lush and the EPA.
Please answer the question.
I believe I did.
No, I said, would you rather have your son use a product that is 100% risk-free or one that is possibly carcinogenic?
I would prefer to have my son use a product that is 100% risk-free, similar to Lush.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right. And any recross?
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Ms. Skylar Weirs to the stand.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Can you state your name, spelling the last for the record?
Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
And Ms. Weirs, what is your current occupation?
I am an investigative journalist for the Rationalist magazine.
And what is your current occupation brought you to investigate?
So I typically investigate topics like individual health and corporate policy.
Now, these topics don't sound directly related to this case here today. Why were you brought here today to testify?
I'm here because I published an article about Drufo and its carcinogenic connection.
And how long did you spend researching and analyzing this topic?
I spent an entire year researching and studying the impacts of Drufo, but more specifically, its carcinogenic elements or lack thereof.
And what did this research entail?
It entailed that I personally go through publications on different agritech companies, which included Lush Fertilizer.
What significant valid sources did you get your information from?
I used information from the United States Department of Agriculture and the National Association of States Department of Agriculture.
Your Honor, by rule of evidence 702, I believe I have laid sufficient foundation that asserts that Skylar Weirs has specialized knowledge over the average juror through the excessive time and research completed on the unbalanced impacts of agritech. we offer Skylar Weirs as an expert in agri-tech analysis.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Permission for a brief voir dire.
You may.
Skylar, or Ms. Weirs, do you have any degree?
No, I do not.
Have you ever taken any classes in college in biology?
No, I have not.
How about journalism?
No, but I do write for Rationalist.
Have you ever researched at a collegiate level?
I have done research over a year on agri-tech.
But have you done research in a college setting?
No, I have not.
Okay. And you do all your research yourself?
Yes, I did.
And you state that this was roughly a year?
Yes.
And this was while you were working at Applebee's, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to object to the fact that Skylar Weirs be admitted in as a expert witness, as she has not met the criteria of what an expert is.
May I respond, Your Honor?
You may.
Your Honor, as by rule of evidence 702, the expert witness only has to have more knowledge on this topic than the average juror, and my witness has researched this topic for a year and has more knowledge over an average juror, which doesn't require any formal degrees of education.
Great. The witness will be qualified as an expert in the area so tendered. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. If you don't mind, Ms. Weirs, I'd like to talk about agri-tech now. What is agri-tech?
Agri-tech is the use of technology in agriculture, horticulture, and aquaculture.
What type of companies or products did you research while investigating agri-tech?
I researched the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, but also a lot of other commercial agriculture companies.
And what did your research about Lush Fertilizer reveal?
It revealed that modern fertilizers like Lush are a whole lot safer than older products that are still in use today.
And what did your research about the chemical compound Drufo specifically reveal?
It revealed that Drufo does not have the added pesticides that are found in a lot of other grass seed products, which contain things like glyphosate and arsenic, which means that other fertilizers are more likely to cause cancer than Lush is.
And Ms. Weirs, what does this mean?
It means that Lush's fertilizers development of Drufo actually protects its consumers by the elimination of exposure to other chemicals that are known to be carcinogenic.
And through your year of extensive research and as an expert in agri-tech analysis, what can you claim about Lush Fertilizer and Drufo?
I can claim that in comparison to other fertilizers, Lush is much less likely to be carcinogenic.
And why is this important today?
My research revealed that any study claiming that Lush is carcinogenic was always inconclusive at best, whereas other fertilizers that my sister would have been using contain known carcinogens.
In your expert opinion, who is at fault for your sibling's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I honestly just want justice for my sibling more than anything, and Haven Landscaping allowed her to use harmful chemicals without requiring the use of proper protective gear.
And I'd like to direct your attention now to your personal connection to this case. Ms. Weirs, how are you connected to the plaintiff?
The plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, is my twin sibling.
And what is your relationship like with the plaintiff?
Our relationship has been strained for several years, but even more so with the case.
What is testifying here today against your sibling like?
I really do love my sibling Dakota, and being here today and testifying against my family is really difficult, but I believe that the truth at any cost needs to be heard. And even though my family is very important to me, I'm not going to let the truth be left behind.
Are there any other reasons this relationship might be strained?
A while ago, I started to spiral because I didn't have the same opportunities to get involved in sports and extracurriculars that my sibling did. And I started to fall into debt and was given financial support from my parents. But when Dakota was diagnosed, they turned away from me to help her.
And what would your response be to someone who might call you resentful and spiteful in this case?
Again, I really do love my family and I love Dakota, and I'm here to bring truth, and I'm not here to harm my family in any way.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Right, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. You are a journalist, correct?
Yes, I am.
Is it true that you publish in a quarterly magazine?
Yes, I publish for the Rationalist magazine.
A quarterly magazine is a magazine that publishes every quarter, is that right?
Yes.
And in this magazine, you support scientific skepticism?
I support scientific truths.
Do you have any degree in journalism?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevancy.
Response?
I'm simply trying to establish her character and her expertise within this event, just looking more in depth about the details of her knowledge.
Your Honor, may I respond?
May.
As previously decided, as an expert in agritech analysis, she does not need any formal education.
Your Honor, may I respond?
You may, and then I'm gonna roll.
Sounds good. I am not questioning whether or not she is an expert at this moment. I'm just simply trying to specify the length to which she is an expert.
Right, the objection is overruled. You may ask.
Skylar, do you have any degree in journalism?
No, I do not.
Do you have a degree in any agritech field?
I have studied for a year extensively about
But
agritech and regularly write about it.
I'm sorry, but the question was, do you have a degree in the agritech field?
No, I do not.
Okay, and have you studied in any classes for journalism at a college level?
No, I have not.
What about biology?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Have you studied biology at a college level?
No, I have not.
All right. You seem to know a lot about the topic of fertilizer and agritech. Have you ever worked with fertilizer?
No, but I have done the extensive research on it.
All right. You haven't obtained any knowledge about this topic in any labs you conducted, have you?
No, I have not.
You also haven't worked in any professional agritech positions, am I right in assuming that?
I do work in writing about agritech.
But more so in any positions outside of journalism. Do you work in any agritech positions?
No, I do not.
So all of your findings come from your own research?
Yes, all
Correct.
of my findings come from my research.
And that research has taken you roughly a year?
It has.
All right. Speaking of your work, where do you work right now?
I work for Rationalist magazine, and I also work for Applebee's on the side.
Let me ask, how significant is your role at Applebee's?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevancy.
I'm just trying to examine how significant her role was in contrast to her research that has been taking place this year-long time period.
Your Honor, may I respond?
May.
And as my witness, she doesn't, to this case today, her expertise in working in Applebee's and as a worker at Applebee's has nothing to do with the case today.
The objection is sustained.
All right, let me talk about, let me ask you a little bit about some of your hobbies. You gamble, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of the direct.
Your response?
I am simply trying to establish her character from the defendant's side.
Right, go ahead.
May I respond?
Yes,
This was not directly covered in the direct.
right. This was not specifically covered in the direct, so the objection is sustained. You may rephrase.
All right, let's just move on to your sister. Have you been in much communication with Dakota?
Oh, sorry, no, our relationship has been strained for a long time.
And did you share any of your thoughts with Dakota prior to this trial?
No, I did not.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Weirs.
Right. Any redirect based on that brief recross?
We're very brief redirect, Your Honor.
Briefly.
Ms. Weirs, why is your opinion on this matter so important?
I did a lot of intensive and unbiased research, and is relevant to the case.
And why is your opinion on this matter more important than someone else here?
Because I am testifying against my family, it just proves that I wouldn't be here unless this truly needed to be exposed, that there is nothing wrong with Lush.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Right. Any recross based on that very brief redirect?
No recross at this time, Your Honor.
All right. You may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Williams to stand.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. Please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Devin Williams, Williams.
And where are you employed?
I work at Lush, a popular fertilizer company here in the US.
How long have you worked there?
7 years and counting.
What are your responsibilities at Lush?
I originally was a technician, but now I lead the toxicology department of research, which makes me head of large decisions regarding the safety of our chemicals.
Could you expand on that?
Sure. I work with different chemicals to understand their reactions given different environments as well as people. My curriculum vitae covers this extensively.
What educational and professional qualifications do you have?
A lot. I have a PhD and have worked in other specialized programs before moving to Lush. My curriculum vitae also covers this extensively.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to what has previously been marked as Exhibit 9. Let the record reflect that we are looking at what has previously been marked as Exhibit 9.
The record will
Dr. Williams, Dr. Williams, do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is it?
My curriculum vitae.
Is it accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about your previous employment education?
Sure. I got my PhD in pharmacology and toxicology, along with a master's degree in forensic toxicology from CSU. I also did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah.
What professional background do you have?
I was employed at Colorado State University, CU Denver, and University of New Mexico, and the Larimore County office.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid sufficient evidence, and I move to have Exhibit 9 as to its evidence.
Any response?
No objection.
The document is admitted.
Dr. Williams, what did you do in your previous employment?
I worked for CSU as an associate professor of toxicology. I've also worked as a tenured assistant professor of forensic toxicology at the University of New Mexico.
Where else have you been employed?
I was an assistant professor of toxicology and pathophysiology at CU Denver, and I worked with the Larimore County office as the chief medical examiner of toxicologist. I also have published in many works.
Could you tell the jury a little bit more about your publications?
Sure. I was published in the Forensic Aspects of Poisons, the Alteration of Prolactin Secretion in Female Rats by Some Endocrine Distributing Chemicals, among other works.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid sufficient evidence, and I move to have Dr. Williams entered as an expert witness in toxicology and pharmacology.
Any objection?
No objection.
Right. The witness is tendered as an expert in the fields for which she has been tendered.
Thank you. Let's focus on Drupo and its relationship to the fertilizer industry. Dr. Williams, what do fertilizers do?
They enhance plant growth in two main ways. They either add nutrients or enhance the effectiveness of the soil by modifying its water retention and aeration, affecting environmental balances.
And what is the need for multi-nutrient fertilizers?
Well, they modify environmental balances, thus solving the eutrophication crisis.
What is the eutrophication process?
For those unfamiliar, eutrophication is a buildup of excess nutrients in water due to agricultural runoff. It all stems from too much nitrogen, which accumulates in the water, creating a huge problem for the environment.
How does this create a problem for the environment?
This process destroys wildlife, reduces oxygen levels, and creates a home for harmful bacteria to thrive.
Why was Drupo created?
Well, the environmental issues that these older fertilizers caused sprung the search for a solution, and that's how Drupo began to be developed.
How does Drupo solve the environmental problems created by fertilizers?
Unlike other fertilizers, Drupo binds to plants and soil, meaning less of the product needs to be used and less is washed away. This is significant because it greatly decreases nitrate production and runoff, therefore slowing down the eutrophication process.
I would now like to focus on the politics surrounding Drupo. Why is Drupo banned in the EU?
Drupo is illegal for reasons completely unrelated to cancer risks. In fact, it was banned because of too much nitrogen in natural water, which is exactly what our product prevents.
but it doesn't look that way in the labs.
What is the EU ban based on?
It's based on laboratory results, not results in nature. However, Drufo is such an effective bonding agent that it does reduce nitrates in nature. Controlled lab experiments do not always directly translate to the natural world.
How did Lush respond to the EU ban?
We were a brand new company at the time and didn't have the resources to fight the decisions. But after we finish our study on Drufo's effects in nature, we plan on submitting our findings.
Are there any other bans on Drufo?
Lucky for us, the US Department of Agriculture relies on its own research, but a lot of less developed countries copied the EU's decision, regardless of the actual facts.
Let's focus more on the plaintiff's claims that Drufo is carcinogenic. What do studies on Drufo and its relationship to cancer reveal?
Use of Drufo has not been correlated with a significant statistical increase in the incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, or any other cancer for that matter.
How are the carcinogenic risks of Drufo discovered?
Well, we use statistics. When you take any large group of people who use any fertilizer, a small percentage of them will develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, regardless of whether or not the fertilizer contained Drufo.
What did the statistics reveal about Drufo's likelihood of causing cancer?
The data we have analyzed consistently revealed that the users of Drufo-containing fertilizers did not have an elevated risk compared to users of other fertilizers.
Dr. Williams, why have you only compared Lush fertilizer to other fertilizers?
You have to compare apples to apples in order to reach a valid conclusion. Studies that compare vastly different scenarios to reach conclusions are often fundamentally flawed.
Are you aware of Dr. Rogers' study?
Yes, Rogers' study is a perfect example of comparing apples to oranges.
How so?
Rogers' study compared farm laborers, casual gardeners, and people who didn't do either of those things and their exposure to Drufo. Although farm laborers are exposed to numerous products and conditions, making Dr. Rogers' study completely invalid.
Why are these variables problematic in research?
These variables are problematic because if someone who participated in Dr. Rogers' study contracted non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it can't be directly traced back to Drufo.
What other important procedures are there in a successful and reliable product and study?
A study should be peer-reviewed and replicated. This has been adopted and accepted by the rest of the scientific world. Dr. Rogers failed to have their study peer-reviewed and duplicated, making their study less reliable than a fifth grader's science project.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Doctor. Have you ever conducted or published any peer-reviewed studies on any kind of fertilizer?
I strictly analyze them.
Have you ever published any work on Drufo?
No, I have not.
Were you involved in any of Lush's in-house studies conducted on Drufo?
I analyze them.
So why weren't you involved if you were in charge of the department?
Because my job is to oversee everything.
So did you or did you not oversee the in-house studies?
I did.
Why were the studies so brief?
What's that?
Why were the studies so brief?
Because we reached a clear and concise conclusion pretty fast.
Now, are you familiar with the UK study that concluded that Drufo increases cancer risk in rats?
Yes.
Now, are you aware of the fact that rats have similar nervous systems, endocrine systems, and organs to humans?
Yes.
And are you aware that rats are often used in the basis of all medical experiments?
Yes.
Now, are you aware that this UK study took 147 weeks?
Yes.
Now, how long did your in-house studies take?
Our in-house studies were only a few months.
Are you aware that the National Center for Biotechnological Information says that the average scientific study should...
scope of the direct.
Your response?
This is talking about the studies which you did talk about, and my question that I was about to finish was going to ask if they were aware that studies are supposed to take 6 to 8 years long.
Great. The objection is overruled.
Will you restate that, please?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
It's okay. Are you aware that the National Center for Biotechnological Information says that the average scientific study should be 6 to 8 years long?
I really don't think you can put a timeline on science. I mean, we came to a clear and concise conclusion regardless of what other studies took.
So you are aware of this fact?
What's that?
So you are aware of the fact?
Yes.
And you chose to ignore this?
I mean, I didn't ignore it. I'm aware of the fact. Our research proved it relatively fast.
Okay. Moving back to Drufo. Would you say Drufo is the most promising product in the line of Lush fertilizers?
Say that one more time.
Moving back to Drufo. Would you say that Drufo is the most promising product in the line of Lush fertilizers?
I mean, I would definitely say it's up there.
Were you ever concerned about the safety of Lush fertilizers?
Of course, that's why I conducted these experiments.
So why were they so incredibly brief if you were so worried about the safety of their consumers?
I would definitely separate brief. It was certainly thorough. It just was relatively fast.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any redirect based on this cross-exam?
Yes, Your Honor, a short redirect. Dr. Williams, why did you consider the EU study on Drufo invalid?
I considered this study invalid because
Objection, this is out of the scope of the cross.
Response?
Throughout Cross, she did bring up the study in the EU and why they looked over it so quickly.
Right. The objection is overruled.
Will you say it one more time?
Dr. Williams, why did you look over the EU study and declare it invalid?
Oh, simply because there were way too many variables.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right. Any recross based on that brief redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, a brief one. So you deemed the UK study on rats inconclusive?
It could not be, what's that?
So what did you deem the UK rat study as?
There were too many variables, so it was inconclusive.
What were those variables?
Well, they compared just like Dr. Rogers' study, and they compared too many different things, and it couldn't be traced back to Drufo specifically.
Although the study is entitled Exposure to Drufo, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
All right. All right, given that that is the final witness, the parties may make their closing arguments for the plaintiff.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention and consideration in this case. My client, Dakota Weirs, lost everything to her disease. She was an elite piano player who spent most of her time in the National Honor Society, helping the homeless and being president of her student body, overall serving her community. Her piano skill grew from a young age after learning to play from her beloved grandfather. This skill grew and grew, eventually to the point where she earned a much-deserved full-ride scholarship to Juilliard, a school for the most talented students. Dakota could have had the world in her hands and flourished in New York. Instead, she can no longer sit to play the instrument she loved. Now, for my client to prove that Lush Fertilizer was negligent and robbed Miss Weirs of her future, there are certain points we must prove by the preponderance of the evidence, showing that the following is more likely to happen than not. The first is that Lush Fertilizer uses Drufo in their products. This is true, and the defense is not claiming otherwise. The second is that Lush Fertilizer failed to exercise a reasonable care to prevent a product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to Dakota, who must be proven that as a consumer that would be reasonably expected to use the product. When questioned earlier today, multiple of the witnesses have admitted that fertilizer can be used by anyone, but specifically it can be used by landscaping companies. Dakota then testified that she worked for a landscaping company, Haven Landscaping, as a landscaping technician. Thus making her a consumer that would be reasonably expected to use the product. Now, Lush Fertilizer will claim that they have a small warning label on their products, recommendations, if you will. Yet this warning label is one that you would find on any chemical at all. Most households will find this in their kitchen cupboards. This warning does not express the true danger Drufo causes, cancer. Lush Fertilizer claims that their products are at the forefront of modern agriculture agriculture, and biotechnical innovation, yet they label their product as any other spray fertilizer, knowing it is not any other spray fertilizer. It causes cancer. The defense has claimed that they were never concerned about the danger of their products. Yet, if they were never concerned about the danger of their products, then why would their expert, Dr. Devin Williams, claim they were? And also, why would they test their products so many times if there were never carcinogenic properties? Of the carcinogenic properties in their product, then why run the in-house tests so many times about the carcinogenic properties of their products? These tests, I may add, were simply guesses. They were mere weeks long, and the results were hidden from their employees who discussed these concerns. Carson Durst, a loyal friend and employee of Blake Doncourt, had results hidden from her. She was forced into silence and was fired from the business for expressing said concerns. Next, we have discovered through Dr. Casey Rogers, a witness who testified today on Dakota's behalf, not because she works at the company, but because she wanted to help. Conducted their own study, and as you found, you are 10 times more likely to contract non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after exposure to Drufo. The third is that Dakota has specific damages caused by Lush's negligence. Dakota lost everything. In her testimony, we heard the harsh reality of her disease. From chills and rapid weight loss to easy bruising and fatigue, her chance of recovery is little to none. Dakota lost absolutely everything, and this is Lush's fault. Lush robbed Dakota of her music, of her health, of her life. She was destroyed by Lush's negligence. For these reasons, we ask you to return a verdict in the favor of the plaintiff and ask for damages in the amount of $10 million. Thank you.
Thank you. For the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, esteemed judge, opposing counsel, we are here today to establish justice for Dakota Weirs. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-counsel and I prove that Lush Fertilizer is not liable for Dakota's tragic disease. This trial will either restore the good name of Lush Fertilizer or destroy a company who is simply trying to make the world a safer place. The opposing counsel's witness statement consisted of an attempt to manipulate young Dakota Weirs. Carson Durst began her statement by proving her biased opinion on this case because of her relationship with Mr. Doncourt. Her success sprouted from this relationship with the Doncourts, and Carson had an advantage in getting her job at Lush because of this relationship. Not only that, but her frustration led her to not only break her confidentiality agreement, but to pursue a vendetta against Mr. Doncourt in his company. If she can't even be honest with something legally binding, how can her statement be trusted today? She might say she's doing the right thing, but she did not do the experiments that said Drufo is dangerous. Conclusions will always be made, but that doesn't make them correct. Dr. Casey Rogers began by elaborating on what his job entails. As an expert in horticulture, he conducted an experiment to test the effects of Drufo on plants. Now, last I checked, humans were not in fact plants. Therefore, while Rogers may have tested how plants are affected by Drufo, none of Rogers' data had to do specifically with how the chemical Drufo affects humans. Thus, no legitimate conclusions can be made about how Drufo negatively affects humans. The first witness today was the plaintiff herself, Dakota Weirs. She testified about how her childhood was influenced by her playing piano and volunteering in the society. The plaintiff's attorneys focused on the effects of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma on Dakota's life, which truly is a sad story. However, Dakota worked with many fertilizers, not only Lush's brand. Any of these could have caused Dakota to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Dakota may have worked with the Lush fertilizer and Drufo, but she worked without the proper safety precautions. The only negligence in this case was committed by Dakota herself. You also heard from the defense today, and we established Lush Fertilizer has no liability through our witnesses. Blake Doncourt is simply a hardworking, moral businessman who built Lush Fertilizer from the ground up and spent time making it environment friendly. He made sure that they tested Drufo before they started using it. His company took all the necessary precautions so that this would not happen. Mr. Doncourt also informed us that he contributes to environmental change charities wherever he can. With all of the work he's put into his company, ask yourselves, why now would he do something to put his company in jeopardy? The simple answer, he wouldn't. Dr. Devin Williams proved that Drufo is a revolutionary component in agritech. As a toxicologist, Dr. Williams is in charge of making sure Lush fertilizer products are safe. Through intense research and testing, Dr. Williams reinforced the fact that Drufo is not dangerous to humans because it is applied less. This means that there is less nitrogen in the soil, which makes the soil safer. Skylar Weirs did the hardest thing for a person to do. She testified against her sister. Nothing could be harder than testifying against someone you know and love dearly. Skylar made this hard decision to show how much she cares about justice and how unbiased her opinions truly were. She also proved she was qualified for this case by explaining her background on agritech and by staying up to date with events in agritech. Throughout this case, the defense proved time and again that there is no possible way Dakota could have gotten cancer by working with Drufo safely. I wish I could say that the plaintiff's attorneys care about Dakota's well-being, but they don't. The only thing stolen in this case is from Dakota, who could be figuring out how to get around her illness as we speak. The plaintiff's attorneys are pulling the strings to destroy an environment-friendly company. To them, Dakota is simply a puppet to make money. The most important question we have to ask ourselves is, why are we gathered here today? We are here today to stop the puppeteering dominance over people with illnesses. Dakota Weirs is more than someone who got cancer. Dakota Weirs represents all those that have been taken advantage of to make money. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to establish justice for Ms. Weirs. However, Lush Fertilizer is not at fault. Blaming this company does not achieve true justice. My co-counsel and I truly wish the best for Dakota. The best for Dakota right now is to try and figure out how to still live with her disease better, not to be manipulated by the plaintiff's attorneys for something as petty as money. The plaintiff's attorneys had the burden of proof in this case, and none of what the plaintiff's witnesses brought up proves that Drufo caused Dakota's cancer. Therefore, Dakota's conditions were not caused by Lush Fertilizer. Thank you, Your Honor. I believe you have yourself muted.
Thank you. We'll give the scorers time to fill out their score sheets, and then we'll go to feedback.
Judge, if you want to provide some feedback while we're waiting, that would be fine.
Okay. So really, I want to congratulate you all for your hard work. This is a really tough case and required a lot of preparation. It's very clear that you were all very prepared and that you knew this case really well. And secondly, I think as a judge, watching people come into the courtroom and having been an attorney myself, being prepared is so important. But also, in addition to being prepared, being professional and courteous and respectful is also important, right? We all know the old adage that's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And that is really true, because your reputation for professionalism and how you choose to present your case, how you choose to speak, how you choose to treat other people, that's always a choice. And so I am really impressed by all of your professionalism and courtesy to others in addition to your preparedness. So thank you for that. It's really important and speaks volumes for each and every one of you.
I think we're just missing one more judge.
Okay. It's a tough case. It's really a lot.
It is, and having been a scoring judge myself, I know it's not easy. I will just say, I guess, while we're waiting for the last judge, I've been judging these competitions a long time. I also competed in mock trial, high school mock trial program when I was in high school. I know how much hard work you guys have done. And the last couple of years watching you guys do it virtually has been so impressive. Like, I can't imagine the amount of stress that must be having to not just do mock trial, but also have to worry about all the virtual technology issues. It looks like this round went pretty smoothly with regards to that, but I know there's been struggles in the rounds past. So you guys all did an excellent job. And I will say, once we're done giving feedback here, we're going to meet in the volunteers lounge, which your coaches have the link to for the awards. We do think we're going to have everything done sooner than 3:30. So that's great. And your coaches should have that information for where to log in for that. And then Sean, I think we're still waiting for you. Do you need any help with anything? Sean, can you hear me? There we go. I see ya. You're muted. You're muted, Sean. Oh. Sean, you're muted. I see you talking, but you're muted.
Okay, well, I'm not doing anything right.
I'm sorry.
What I was trying to say is I was taking notes as I went, and then I have my score sheet, so that's why you're waiting on me, and I apologize for that.
Okay, but you have your score sheet and you know what to do.
Well, let me ask one question so I don't
Okay.
hold things up anymore. Under the plaintiff's team name and the defense team name, can you just give those to me so I can put the code in?
Yeah, plaintiff is Nix and defense is Spears.
Okay. All right. I apologize for the delay. I'm going to go off camera and I'll finish as quick as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right. Sounds like he's on top of it, so I'm gonna let Stephanie and Kristen give some feedback while he's finishing up.
All right, I'll pick up. There you go.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Kristen Blodgett. I'm a public defender in Adams County, so a court-appointed defense counsel. And I do want to echo what Judge Vielma was saying, that you guys really overall did a really good job, and I'm really impressed, especially given the circumstances of having to do it virtually, because it's hard to make that same connection with the witnesses. But overall, you guys should really be really proud of yourselves. So in terms of feedback, I think overall, those who are doing crosses and directs, good signposting. Everyone really did seem to know the case pretty well. I would just say for those who are doing the cross examinations, just make sure that your questions are close-ended. So you're implying the answer with your question, because that's why some folks were having a lot of difficulty with the witnesses, because you were asking open-ended questions, which was really giving the witnesses a lot of room to shine. Whereas on cross, the attorney should really be the star of the show. I thought that there was also good stuff in the closing that linked back to the opening statements. So I think, for example, Zachary, you were talking about pulling strings and being a puppet, which is something that in opening Josie had said as well. And so that was really kind of cool to relate back to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like Josie, for example, and some others, you would use a witness's answer in your next question when following up. And so that was really smart to do as well, and kind of helped me to continue to follow along. I think everyone did a good job keeping their cool when dealing with objections, especially when there were issues kind of with like the Wi-Fi cutting in and out. Like no one, everyone seemed calm and collected, and it's hard. It's really hard to keep your cool when you get interrupted in the middle of a question. I think everyone did a good job with that. Let me see. So there were a couple instances where, like, for example, Ian, when you were asking about that gambling question, I think if you just kind of rearrange some of your questioning a little bit, because it was clear you wanted to get into like her motivations with her financial difficulties. And so if you had started by talking about the financial difficulties, which Zachary had discussed in the direct, then that would have been the foundation you needed to be able to get into that additional question related to the gambling. But I think you just didn't quite have the foundation there. And so I think just looking back through questions and making sure you've got all the foundation will help those of you that kind of struggle to get into those additional questions that weren't directly addressed on direct examination that you wanted to get out on cross to attack like a witness's credibility or something. But yeah, overall, it was really fun to watch. So thanks. Thank you.
Hi guys, clear from everyone's presentation that you guys prepared an awful lot for this competition this weekend. thank you for all of your hard work that went into it. I, like Ashley Shelton, have done mock trial for a long time. I know what kind of work you guys put into this, so congratulate yourselves on that. A couple things to go along with that. You guys know the case better than probably anybody else in this room, aside from your teammates, but the judges and the scoring panelists don't know the case as well as you. Some of us have had the opportunity to review the case materials, but we haven't been able to dissect it like you have. And I don't have the facts memorized like you have. So there were parts where you guys were going so fast, which is probably nerves, probably lack of time. I get you guys only have so much time to present, but it was hard to catch everything you were saying because you were going so quickly. So if you guys have a way to limit the scope of the information you're trying to get in, that might help you have more time to explore the facts and circumstances that really matter. So that was just one bit of feedback that I thought could be helpful. I also talk fast. Judge Vialma can vouch for that. I've appeared in front of her before. So I get the inclination to do it, but it just makes it really hard to catch your presentation, which I know you've worked so hard for. So if everybody could have slowed down a little bit, that would have been helpful. To kind of go along with that, also guilty of doing this, because you're in such a hurry and thinking about the next step, some of you were talking over each other or even over Judge Vialma. So you just need to take that second to pause and make sure that everyone else has finished speaking before you begin, as well as not cutting off your witnesses' answers. It'll just really help polish the presentation as well. But tremendously impressed with you guys. You should be so proud of what you did today.
All right, I'm not trying to pick on Sean. How are we doing, Sean?
All right. Well, I will say a couple of things. I think you guys did a really good job. And as you can tell, I struggle with the Zoom stuff, and doing something like this in this environment takes a lot of preparation, and you all should be really commended. I will tell you, one of the most difficult things I've had during the pandemic is learning to do things in this forum. And especially as an attorney, you tend to, when you do trial work, you really tend to, I don't want to say live off of it, because you prepare ahead of time, and that's 99% of what you do. But doing something in this environment where you have a difficult time reading the witness, reading the audience, I think it's difficult, and I think you all did a very good job, and you should really be proud of yourselves. Along the lines of observations, I will just tell you, I will probably echo a lot of what the others have already said. I read the case materials ahead of time, and I think you all did a very good job tying things together. I will tell you, the puzzle that you had, or the fact pattern, it's not an easy one to neatly tie up. And I think all in all, you did a very good job. One thing I will say, and I'm going to focus primarily on the cross-examination. By and large, they were good. I will tell you that we were taught to always ask a leading question on cross. And there are some attorneys who've been doing it for a very long time who can deviate that from time to time and be okay. With that said, I remember when I was an intern, I had a lawyer who said, I don't care how experienced you are, don't do that. And he gave an example of one of the better lawyers that we knew, who had a very good reputation and got away from a leading question, and he got burned. So especially as you're learning, you want to learn very good habits. And so just discipline yourself to do that. And the other thing I will say, I'm very impressed with the knowledge that you all have of the rules of evidence. I don't think I was exposed to those until either second or third year of law school. I actually think it was a summer class between the second and third year. And for you all to at least have the working knowledge and to be able to think about it and do it on your feet, you should really feel good about your performances today. And I will try and work on my tech skills and finish everything up so we can get out of here. And I sincerely apologize for that.
If you need help, Sean, I know in the volunteer lounge too, Josh and Amy are in there. So if you are having trouble, if you want to log in there, we can help you.
All right, I'll finish it up.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. I think given we've gotten all the feedback and it sounds like he's working on that and we can meet with him in the volunteer lounge. I think everyone's free to go. And I'll see you all at the awards ceremony. And like I said, I think we'll be ready before 3:30. So if you guys want to head that way here soon, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend.
Good to see you, ladies.
You too.
See you for a while, Ms. Blodgett. You take care.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, Ashley. Take care. Good job. It was a good tournament.
Yeah, good job, Ashley.
Oh, thanks. And thank you for volunteering.